There's a little, use that little, the green thing right there,
Yeah.
nope, the little.
To the right.
I'll show you. Go right here. Right there. There we go. Thank you.
The meeting of the Auburn Industrial Development Authority will come to order. Roll call vote. A roll call, please.
Mr. Daisy,
Here.
Mr. Cuddy,
Here.
Mr. Genatino.
Here.
Ms. Weber McLeod,
Here.
Ms. Green,
Here.
Mr. Lovell.
Here.
Mr. Andre.
Here.
Ms. McIntyre.
Here.
And you've got Rob Poyer, attorney for the authority.
Right there.
The minutes for the December 14th regular meeting. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
discussion. Changes, additions. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions carried. Thank you. Bills and communications.
Take that, bills received, DBW, same monthly amount, $47.50. CS quarterly invoice amount, came to $5,026.57, $26.57 is posted, though. That may require, a slight adjustment.
What's
I-
the other,
I
it still
got
says postage 15.
Because I forgot that one, I adjusted the other side. I forgot.
It is 26.57 for the postage, okay.
Thank you for pointing it out to us. We also received the annual New York State EDC membership fee in the amount of $850. So that was everything we have received over the last month. For bills.
Does the EDC bill that gets charged to next year though? To 2023,
Yeah, it covers all of 2023.
okay. But the other. Well, the CETA fourth quarter, that gets charged 2022.
Yes,
I wrote GDWs for January as well.
Okay,
why I highlighted it on the program or note here was it should have been in last month's package.
okay.
So that's why you were seeing the difference in the net income and to the balance sheet as well.
Is there a motion on the floor to group and accept the bills and communications?
So moved.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions carried. Report of the treasurer.
So with the inclusion of the bills. That we just approved, it looks like our loss is about $70,000. For the year. Which. We really didn't have many projects, so. That's not unexpected. We have a pretty healthy. Fund balance, retained earnings, so. We're still in good shape. That's it.
Is there a motion on the floor to accept the P&L and the balance sheet?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Questions?
I just want, before we go, like, all of our pilots have been paid, like, by the end of the
I
year.
have 3 deposits. I just got a new pilot payment from seminary
Okay,
that I have to deposit and I have to get those distributions ready so they can pay for them.
When did we get them?
Within the past couple weeks. I still have time to get them distributed.
now, are they late, do they get a? Because they're late, do they get $1,000 charge, or what, are they any?
They came in, 2 of them came in right at the end of the year and I just got the one. The other ones are deposited, seminary's not. So this week I'm gonna get that distribution when I first get the trucks.
Who is this?
Seminary, I just got seminaries, they were like technically late.
So did they include a penalty or no?
Yeah.
So I mean, we gotta be consistent because we penalized people in the past. We've had some issues where.
And they have a history.
Yeah, I would say, that's why I brought it up. I just want to make sure that, that just, I think it's important to build on the penalty and because if we did have an issue years ago where people would take months to pay us and we tightened everything up and I don't think we want to be like, oh yeah, I'll get a pilot from
Yeah,
Ada, so I can, so I just think, just to be fair, we need to issue that penalty.
there's still, I was just looking at the school district's pilots, there's still more
I
outstanding?
got one or two that I was getting ready to send.
Yeah.
I was gonna hurt too.
I know there's more than 3 that we haven't.
Who are
Also,
they?
there's more than just.
So that
some-
was your one list. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, and that's why I brought it up before we voted on. I just want to make sure that we do that because we we just talked about Paris reporting, and I don't think it would be good for an audit. Number one, that we're not collecting our pilots. And number two, which, as I said earlier, I just don't want us to be considered, like lax in our enforcement of paying within our time. So, if we can get those letters out and the follow-up letter to seminary, basically
And the
saying that
ones who
just.
still haven't paid, yeah.
Yeah.
Tell them what their penalty will be when they submit.
For future reference, when we have pilot disbursement report, please have all that information available for us, okay?
Yep.
Do we need, is that a standing item on the agenda? Do we need that every month?
Once a year. Usually once a year, but if they're outstanding, then
Yeah.
Yeah, I
we were
think
gonna
we-
need another
Keep
one
getting it
next
until-
month,
okay.
so.
I guess, that should be an agenda item for the February meeting, so, because I really thought, I'll be honest with you, in years past, because, like, I think people, like, we started penalizing them, and they have all kind of lined in, and I think, I'm surprised, that's why I almost didn't bring it up, it's like, oh, everyone's paid, but,
No,
Chris, if they haven't paid, we gotta,
Yeah, it's on my list of things that are outstanding.
okay, great.
Well, yeah, I mean, but then seminary as well, because if
One
we're,
day, I think that'd be a different letter. because-
Yeah, be a different letter, just say, that, we noticed that your payment came in at.
Even if they updated their check, I didn't get it.
Well, if it's receipt, right? Correct.
Well-
I could post it in one check.
When did you get them?
Seminary I got after the first,
Okay, yes.
Oh, long after the first.
just last week.
Okay, yeah, so that's, so
Yeah.
that's late, and I would, it's.
That's why I asked last fall too, to make sure that we got that letter out on time so that there's no question that it's due, and if they don't, then they're gonna pay a fine.
I think
Is
that
the
letter was
penalty
out.
just a one-time thing though, like,
Yeah, we did send that.
Yeah,
what
okay.
if, but what if they don't pay again this month, in the next month?
Is there,
Like,
yeah,
it should be a monthly
Yeah, I think,
percentage
They
every.
default on the pilot.
yeah, they don't want that to happen.
But you
So-
can revoke it.
Yeah,
And
So
then
they
I'm
should-
sure
they
there's
should-
an additional
Okay.
folder in there for our old letters for warnings and lates.
Yeah.
So I can pull it up and send that to everyone.
Rob, are you hearing all this? This sounds all like what we need to be doing, correct?
Yeah, well, I mean, you have the choice and you can do either. You have the choice of strict performance or to excuse it if it's a few days.
What was
And
the due date?
It's the end of the year, December 30.
12/31.
Yeah, 31st.
yeah,
Well, the fact that we sent a letter out in November to notify them that, or to remind them that it's due by the end of the year, should suffice that we don't need to start doing that, looking at individuals and saying, well, we'll let this one pass. And I think we would end up getting back into the same rut we're in several years ago before we started enforcing this.
But
And I think that's a fair position, Jim. If you want to do strict performance, you're entitled to do that, and more power to you.
I think if it was postmarked by the 31st, even though we didn't receive it. till January.
Yeah, if that would help, I mean, that would be more. I mean, I think the board would be more understanding if it.
If
if
it got
was
mailed
postmarked.
before the end of
Yeah.
the year.
But
Yeah.
if it's just dated before the end of the year,
Yeah.
it needs to be, you know,
Okay.
that's not true. But the postmark is definitely acceptable.
It doesn't even work for the IRS. Fucking stamps.
Yeah, we'll take it though.
We'll take it. We're nice.
We're not that
We're a little more, of it. Right, Bill, are we nicer than the IRS?
Well, do you want to amend the motion that, as far as the disbursement report goes, that if it's postmarked by the 31st of the
It's
December, that it's
considered
acceptable?
on time.
Yes.
Well, I would just say this, in the pilot agreement, there should be a notice provision, and I would have to look up what that is. Usually something is effective like 2 days after mailing or 3 days after mailing. And it doesn't necessarily go by the postmark. So before anybody does something, I think we would want to look at that. And rather than alter what's in the agreement, go by it. I would just, if we're gonna do something, I would prefer to go by the agreement. I mean, if the decision is to waive strict performance, then you can certainly do that. And that's a decision, you can make. But if the decision is to go by the agreement, then I think we should go by it, including the notice provision.
I
Yeah.
think
See what
we
I'm
should
saying?
definitely go by the agreement, whatever the agreement
Yeah.
says. As far as payment. If it's silent on it though, then I think we should allow postmark.
Yeah, I mean, again, we as a board can decide that we're not changing the rules, but at least just basically saying, oh, they
They made a
Well,
good-
made a good faith effort to get it.
Rob
posted.
brings up a very good point. If the existing pilots have language in them, we don't want to go and change something that is contrary to the
Right.
existing language.
No, we'll go by the language.
So, I mean, I can look at the pilot agreement tomorrow morning and tell you what it says as far as when something is effective, whether it's when sent or whether it's a few days after that or what. And can give you a clear answer on this. But usually, and I think I drafted this one, usually when we draft these things, there's a notice provision that tells us exactly when something is effective. So, and I can let you know on that. But if the decision today is to go by what's in the agreement, then I think you should go by it. And if it's late, it's late. And if it's not, it's not. And you have a clear answer.
Yes, go with that.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, Chris, thanks. Thanks, Rob.
So now we need to vote.
Do you want to, should we amend the motion then?
We're still
Rob?
accepting them.
The budget and report.
Well, I think your motion is simply to follow the pilot. You're accepting the budget, correct? But you're as in respect of the Seminary Commons and anybody else that's like, you're simply following the agreement and imposing the late payment, insisting on strict performance.
My concern is that Christina said that seminary is not the only one, that there's other ones that.
Yeah, there are two that definitely.
And so, we're starting to slide here, and we need to take action in order to keep that from becoming a problem.
But
Yeah,
I
that's what
think
we're
the
saying.
directive has been given to Christine, and the question is like, that doesn't change the budget report. We can just go ahead and approve the budget report.
It doesn't-
Move on.
the budget, but the second part of it is the pilot disbursement. If we want to
I don't,
separate those out, we will.
do we need to vote to accept that? Can we just vote to accept the treasurer's report and that one?
Yeah, I think you can vote for the treasurer's report separate from that. And go ahead with that vote. And I think as far as the pilots go, like I said, I think you can just insist on strict performance of your pilot agreements.
Yeah, we'll just have that in a minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I move to approve the budget,
The treasurer's report.
the treasurer's report.
You guys already did that.
We didn't vote.
Okay, let's vote on that.
Did you,
then.
did you?
Yeah,
We
so
already had a motion. and
Did a
second.
motion.
And a motion and a
I
second.
want to make sure that the language is right.
It's just not strict enforcement. By the.
it's the second thing.
Did we have a vote to accept the treasurer's report?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
That's what-
So
and.
I seconded, so
All those in favor?
I,
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, carried, okay. Good. Unfinished business, CETA update.
Okay, if, and I'm sure almost everyone in this room is aware of this now, is that the city has applied for a Restore New York application for Genesee Street, just up the block here. In addition to the Alstom facility, formerly known as the Bombardier facility, and that's a $10 million application for that one alone. One of the other encouraging things that Jenny Haynes had shared with me is that they are also willing to list that as one of our site assets within the city and Cuyahoga County. So it's 15 acres, over 15 acres, and also sitting with over 200, I think it's 232,000 square feet of facility use. That this is really great stuff for us. One of the things, if this board and body is not aware of it, CETA receives a number of inquiries monthly from Empire State Development. They have site selectors coming in. We get kind of a blind application of here's the site they're looking for, the investment they have, and the number of jobs they're looking to infuse based on the project size. The number of times that Bombardier facility would have been perfect for inquiries has come and gone, and I haven't been here for very long, so I can't imagine since 2006, when that facility was closed, the number of opportunities that have come and gone. So this is not just great for the city of Auburn, but it makes great sense that anyone coming in would be a perfect client for Ada as well. So the timing of that is great. There's continuing conversations related to Micron. Both Gwen and Terry here are involved on that end as it relates to workforce development. I mentioned Jenny Haynes. She's also been working with myself and some members from the county and putting together what our assets are. And we're continuing to refine that and position ourselves related to that opportunity itself. Mr. Genentino put me in touch with a local business owner. We're working with him to find suitable space within the area. I had also shared with him the benefits of which he will most certainly look to take advantage of as he's growing his business. He has a pretty large expansion project in mind as he's been gearing up. And hopefully that something could be done this year. He does have some urgency on it. And then those are the large updates I have related to that point. I know the next item here is the TGW marketing contract. That was the next update I have. I'm not sure whether or not to roll that in while I'm still talking or.
Well, let's talk about the Bombardier for just a minute. One of the holdbacks on that has been since 2006. That if somebody goes in and buys that, it's going to trigger a full-blown environmental assessment. which could be 10,000 or $10 million, or could be 25 million, you know, so that's been the reasoning why that hasn't moved for all these years. Is there a change in that the reasoning,
No, I think the if I may, I think the change is that it's new owner. And for the first time since 2006, somebody's actually willing to talk to the city. Mayor Cool's been here the longest in terms of all of us, and for those 15 plus years, you know, Bombardier would engage and then they would just back off. They were never willing to part with the site, to talk about parting with the site, to talk about redeveloping the site. Since it's changed hands, this company has been very open to doing whatever. They made it clear that they're not interested in expanding there at this time, because they've expanded in Hornell. That's where they're, and then they've got a plant in Plattsburgh as well. But like Michael said, they have said it's available. So I think that's what's changed. Whether or not, you know, the scope of the environmental, nobody knows, but I'm sure that they're aware that if they're going to move in any direction, there's going to be environmental. But the fact that they are talking to us, and I know there's been some negative talk in the community about, oh, lack of details, they want all this money, but they're not telling us what they're going to do with it. But the fact that they're actually talking to us and engaging with us, saying that's available, to Michael's point, that they get constant inquiries. We've never been able to go to Bombardier and say, hey, somebody's interested, because they wouldn't engage with us. So I think that's what's changed.
okay. Yeah, there's, through the years, there's been several
Yeah,
companies that have been very interested, but
yeah. Several years ago, we all met with a company that wanted to come in and basically do the remediation. That's what they do. And Bombardier would not engage with them. So this is a plus, you know.
yeah.
And it's at the exact right time too, I think.
And it is, it's when we had shared that with some of our partners at the regional level, and it was definitely some eyebrows getting raised, so that's a very nice asset.
And it's on
to
the
have.
rail line, which is a plus too.
Right. Proximity to everything else, I mean, that's always been part of the discussion related to Micron. It's basically Auburn on north. So very much in the target zone for, you know, tertiary companies participating in this opportunity before us. So just so well timed.
Michael, and the other topic that you mentioned, I know we'll keep it general because, you know, we don't want to reveal anybody's plans. I know that this particular individual is looking at a specific site. Or have you or anybody at CETA talked to the city about potential sites too? Because I know they've just gone through and done an inventory of what's available.
We do have that list.
Okay.
That's one of the things we need, aside from getting what the city has put together. We had a pretty lengthy meeting last week with the county as well. It's literally sat in a room and we're looking at a map, picking out what's available and what's not. And we wanted to have that before returning to that employer to say, here's some other opportunities that we think might be, you know, well suited for what he has in mind.
All right, good, thank you.
For DGW, okay. So as I mentioned at within one of our last meetings, is I was going to bring you know, a potential arrangement for a joint contract on DGW to CIDA. I spoke with them yesterday evening. We weren't able to discuss it in December. We just had too much on the agenda. They are open to it. Their website has not been updated in quite some time. I also let them know this is probably a good time to get it updated, considering everything else that's going on. I had shared some of the feedback this board had discussed relative to TGW. I also brought up what Rob shared in our last meeting of using Mohawk Valley Edge as, you know, a pretty good standard of where we would like to see that go. I spoke with TGW today. They'll be working on putting together a quote package. I did let them know it's very unlikely that this body would be re-engaging for the amount of money you paid them over this last year. You're already fully built out and going in a different direction from what has been done historically. So they're aware of that. And I was also helping them set some expectations of what the other IDA would be looking at as well. So hopefully in this next week or so here, I should have that bid or not bid quote to share out to this body so you can make a better decision on how you would like to move forward with them in any capacity, full, half, none.
I thought we were gonna talk to other people. I thought we were gonna look for somebody who had this experience in this particular. I don't know, line of work. And we really didn't, unless we're doing a different. We had talked about TGW and maybe looking like bringing people to live here, but in terms of industrial development, they're not a good fit for us. So we were going to look at other companies. That's what we talked about last month.
Well, I don't, yeah. And we talked about it, but I thought we needed to decide what we're gonna do with TGW first and how much we're gonna spend with them. And then see,
That's what I recall from the last meeting.
And the one thing, did you
Expanded.
clarify who owns the website and who controls the app? Like,
yeah, that
for
was
me, the
one of the
website,
questions.
and did you get any? Did you ask them about the website,
I
like,
didn't ask them pointedly about that. It's my feeling you do, it's your content. But I can certainly.
do we just wanna make sure, like, oh, you're not working with us, okay, you know?
No, they can't.
So I know they can't, but so
100% they can. If
But-
we're paying them to host, so that's part of what we're doing, and part of that contract is that. You know, they put the website up for us when our contract ends, they can certainly take it down, depends on what we sign.
So, yeah, I think, just to confirm that up, that's why I was saying, like, I do think that. You know, TGW in some form or fashion, you know. Like, we need to work with, especially just kind of. Just the website, just to kind of, because I don't know if we're updating the website locally. Or they're doing much of that in Rochester. But I guess at the last meeting, you were talking about cost sharing with CCIDA because I believe that they want to upgrade their website and work in a similar fashion to what our website is doing. Is that correct? And so I guess we're waiting on that, and then Lisa, somebody had mentioned, you mentioned Mohawk Valley Edge, or Rob did,
Rob did.
and you said that uses a different company than that is geared more towards what Dan is talking about, which is economic development. Is that the case? Am I remembering that correctly, Rob and Michael?
Yeah,
What I recall from that part of the discussion is Rob suggested that as a good model.
yes,
You know, if this is the direction. And I think everyone agreed with Rob it's a very clean website. It really focuses on. You know, what that area has to offer relative to incentives, economic impact. And it's very clean. It's not busy at all. It's selling exactly what they're looking to sell.
And did you let TGW know that our website is hard to find what the incentives are for Ada? Okay.
Hi, I'd like just to jump into this conversation. Dan, I was having a similar thought. I wasn't as far down the path with regard to should we interview other people. But as I was listening to our conversation last month, I think I was experiencing a couple of things. One, that we want to make sure that the design and functionality of the website allows businesses that might be interested in coming to Auburn to be able to navigate that site with ease and find what they're looking for. And in my mind, that's in the space of a design issue. But some of the other things that I heard us talking about were once we have a website and all the collateral in place is how do we close that gap between somebody getting to that website and then us attracting them, retaining and sustaining them. And if I recall correctly, I was thinking that I was hearing that some of that was an expectation of the firm that we would hire to do this particular work. So if we're looking to have both those things at play in our next scenario, I think it's critically important that we really understand what TGW's expertise is as it relates to these other expectations and our longer term desired outcome. So I was on the original committee that interviewed marketing firms for this project. Terry, you and I were on that committee. So for example, TGW brought a very specific expertise to us, and they also brought with us familiarity with our community and content. And in that scenario, they were ultimately selected as the right firm for this project because we were doing place-based marketing and wanting to really elevate why this is a great place to live and bring your business. We had a year with them, some things unfolded. There's been pros and cons about their work. And now we're at this other interesting tipping point where we want the website, we really, I think, more externally focused and more focused on attracting businesses, which is related to, but not exactly the same thing in my mind, is what this most recent marketing strategy has been about, or just after we played with it, just didn't deliver what we were looking for. So I think a couple of things is that we need, Michael, it's important that we be very clear with what we're expecting TGW to do so that they can align their expertise with what we're looking for in a way that it's visible and evident to us that we'll get to the outcome. Or if they're not able to deliver everything that we think we want someone to deliver, that to me might be the trigger to explore another option or two. So, and I think, Michael, some of this, and I think the board, we need to think about this, it's sort of like a whose job is it anyway question to me. Because there's this whole body of work that's called, I'm going to design a website that's functional and attractive and sleek. And when I get there, I can find it. And then there's another thing that deals with, and what do we do once somebody goes there and is interested in doing it? And so I just think as a board, we need to be clear about what we're looking for a firm to do. Let me ask a Gwen Weber McLeod question. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Because it's that time of day, I might not be making sense. But does that resonate with you all when I describe what I was observing? Okay. I can't hear what you're saying, Terry. Can you hear me?
Looks like the room's muted. The room's muted.
Okay.
I can't hear you.
Yeah. Ada needs to unmute the mic because we can't hear you.
All right, so sorry, Katie, I was asking you, so we heard Gwen and we agreed, and like your thoughts on like what Gwen was saying, because it was Gwen, you and myself on the original committee that hired TGW. What are your thoughts?
So I agree with what Gwen's saying. And I think that, you know, some of what I recalled we brought up is really just the way they were focusing some of the content that they were creating was really more towards residents and attracting folks to come and live in Auburn. But really, I think the meat of what we're looking for from them is really to attract businesses to bring to bring their businesses and, you know, their future employees to Auburn. So I don't know if it's possible to reshift their focus, or if it's going to take a different firm. But that feedback, if it hasn't been given to them, in my mind, needs to be shared with them so that they can be focused in the way we want them to be focused.
Right, that's what we need to find out.
And is a month enough time to, what was their thoughts about getting back to you, Michael?
It was fairly quick, was the impression I had from my discussion with them today. Is a month should be more than enough time to come back.
Okay, so February we'll revisit this and decide how we're gonna move forward based on what their feedback is.
Yeah.
And you know, in the meantime, look at websites that you like and come back with ideas.
Are we in limbo now, or business as usual with TGW?
No, we're done,
I
right?
believe
We
this
paid them
is-
through January.
Right, so this is technically the last month
Okay, this one. All right.
that this is.
I wasn't sure if it was December or this one.
It was this month, so they do have, part of my discussion with them today is they're, rolling out a little bit more content. That they've done through December. So they're still moving along, but, part of today was letting them know here's what we need and what the board has shared with me thus far.
Michael, do you and your team have all of the assets that they've been posting on our behalf in case we want to repurpose some of that in the interim?
I believe that's all contained within the website itself, so.
I mean, the social posts. They're posting on social on our behalf. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
So I think we'll want to make sure that we secure all of the assets that they've created on our behalf under the contract, so that we have that library of content. And, if it's someone on your team who's going to be sharing that and repurposing that and leveraging that investment, we have those, easy to access.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's really annoying.
Like I take the quarter.
Yeah, it's really annoying.
I think, but all right, I think. Is that it? All right,
Is there a consensus that we're moving in the right direction?
I'd like to hear from Dan one more time.
Why me?
Well, because I think you have I think you have a point of view, or I guess what I'd like to ask you as your colleague is what we're agreeing to do in alignment with how you're thinking about what we should do? Will seeing a new proposal help you think about whether or not, from your perspective, TGW is the fit for us?
From looking at everything that I've seen in terms of the assets and what we've gotten back, the reports that they've sent us,
Mhm,
I don't feel confident that we would ever get from them what we need from them.
mhm,
It just, the results just aren't there
mhm.
at all, and I think it would behoove us, or it could be a lot better of a thing if we could just looked around, found some other people, and maybe somebody's got exciting and interesting ideas that we don't have as a group and can bring them. I think that the way that I see this entire approach doesn't make a lot of sense to me, and I would like somebody who's got a lot more experience marketing in this sphere to come to us and talk about what does actually work.
Mhm.
The things that we're doing, they don't. I think that a year later, and you guys can disagree with me, I'm only looking at the numbers, but the numbers look like it's a lot of money spent for a really small return.
Mhm.
That's all.
Yeah, I think some of that, Dan, is just kind of marketing stuff. But on the other hand, I think your point of view is critical in terms of Michael being able to fully articulate to TGW what they would need to do differently in order for us to feel confident that they're the firm to move us toward this desired outcome. of not only having a website and collateral that's going to attract more business, but there's some body of work that will be connected to that that's going to be required to get to the outcome we're looking for. And I guess, Michael, that's part of one of the things you and the CETA team have to think about is what is that work, and does the current configuration of your team have the capacity to do it? Because I think it's some combination of closing the gap between what any firm would do in terms of building out a website that's easy to navigate, so forth and so on, and then what we do once somebody lands there and is expressing interest. So I hear you, Dan, but that's why I think Dan's perspective, Michael, is giving you, I think, an interesting way to ensure that TGW is understanding the expectation, because they did exactly what we asked them to do. But we're now a year later saying, not sure if it, in terms of what job was. Yeah, we didn't get the result we were looking.
So I guess the part maybe that it doesn't sound like I'm getting across is, I don't think that we know what we need them to do. I mean, if this is what we told them to do and they did it, then then the fault is on us and not on them, but somebody doesn't know how to market this the right way.
So, and again, like, so Dan's has a good point, but what I think we should preface this is like, we were not marketing us at all, like before
I get that,
this.
and this is not.
No.
Not anybody like throwing any shade, it's the same, we have an opportunity now.
Yeah.
So why not see if there's marketers who are very good at this, because to me, maybe we hired a baker to do the job of, I don't know, pizza man, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
It just might not be, if you've got a hammer, everything looks like a nail. I don't think the tools that they use don't look like those tools work for
Okay.
this type of enterprise.
I think the $70,000 loss for last year is indicative of whether it's doing what we wanted to do.
My whole point is that having clear expectations will really matter. And so I think, Michael, you are now in the position where you're recognizing where we're trying to go. And so just making sure that we're really clear with them about what we're looking to do in marketing 2.0 will be helpful. And I mean, I don't know who did the Mohawk Valley work, but just as a comparison, Michael, have an see if they do almost like an informal interview with you, just to kind of get a sense of what they did and a handle on the results, just as a point of comparison, because you could learn from that and then communicate with TGW. Here's what I'm looking for. So I trust you, Michael, to to kind of figure this out. But I think it's important to hear from the board what the expectation is, so we make sure we're setting the right expectation, and that you and your staff can then lean into that to actually get to the result that we need, because it's going to be a combination of marketing and relationship building, I think.
Yeah, Gwen, I totally agree. I think another opportunity is not just looking at marketing KPIs. I think we need to tie it to, like, what are the goals of our organization? How many new businesses do we want to bring in? And really linking marketing with the results, and then looking at that month over month to make sure that we are achieving that goal by the end of the year.
That sounds fair enough. So do we, I guess, like next month, we'll get some answers and then we'll decide whether we want to go out for an RFP. And before we go out for an RFP, we need to be informed by what we learned the last 2 years we've worked with TGW with, and decide how, like, what should the RFP ask for the next business. I mean, did that sound like
You feel
plan?
comfortable being able to discuss this?
Yes and no. I think that in my observation, this board is probably putting a little too much on the digital marketing aspect as it is. So you paid a lot of money for a website, which, as leaders within your various areas, how much of your business is looking at someone else's website? In my experience, not a whole lot, so it's a very good tool to have and good place to go for resources, but really it's in relationship building. And that's more on CETA to get out there and just leverage the website as a tool in some of our marketing efforts. So the overhaul, as I understand it, was that there was a lack of marketing. You needed this put together, so there was more. You could have better outreach, and kind of selling Auburn is not just a good place to start business, but a good place to live, play, work, all of those things at once. There's been too much focus on the place-based branding community. We're missing the intended target audience. How do we better inform either TGW or a different party? Here's our expectations of what that is. If you can't do it, then we need to find someone else. Part of that is ensuring TGW and all of the assets we've invested, they're ours and our content to deploy whenever we feel is appropriate. Hopefully I'm
Yeah, you
getting
got it
all of
right.
these
Yeah.
things.
Sounds like you got it to me.
Yeah, and I think part of helping our understanding, Michael, would be, is I think you're right. I think there are a lot of people who think if you have a beautiful website, it's going to directly lead to building business. There's a whole lot of stuff that has to happen in between. So I think one of the things that will be helpful to us and possibly to the CETA board as we're talking about these things, as they're related, would be not only for you to communicate with us the digital instruments you need, and what is the related work plan, right? So that whole thing you just said, how is your team going to leverage the website as a resource to build? Because I think that's where the expectation gap is. A lot of people, I think, are under the impression that you have a beautiful website and it automatically yields the outcome of attracting businesses. I think it's the launching pad for the process to build the relationship to do so. And honestly, Michael, you'll probably have a sense of this because the leadership hasn't been so stable in the organization for a while. I could say as a board member, I don't know that I've seen a work plan that has made that what happens in between gap clear to me. So I think if you can identify what you need in terms of the digital resource and then communicate with us, even if it's an infographic, how the team is then going to leverage that material to bring businesses to the community, I think it'll help us better understand and help us discern if TGW is the right firm. Because do I think they have the capacity to make a website that is clean, easier to navigate? I think they do, because I think that's their sweet spot. But there's this other thing that has to happen to get to our desired outcome. So I don't think that we can address those things as separate issues. In the end, I think some of it's going to need to be you making sure that you get the resources you need and then educating us about how that whole thing is going to work together to get to the outcome. That's my perspective about it. And I think it's very similar to what Katie was saying, but I just wanted to say that, articulate it that way.
Okay. All right, we don't need to do anything with that right now. Okay. New business. Report of the governance committee.
So Gwen, Jim and I met to go over the committee charter as well as the review policies for property procurement and investment. And we didn't know any major changes. Jim found I imagine a typographical error. And it's on page 4 of the procurement policy, and it just basically has the amended date. And the approved and actually, no, Jim, is that as I'm 4, you're basically the approved and adopted the 17th day of 2014. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, we have to update that.
I do think it might be like, it might be right, because it's the approved and adopted is 2014, and then we amended it 2017, so I think we're okay with it. So I don't think we need to take any action at this point, but the committee agreed to, there was no major issues, with any of the committee charter nor the property procurement and investment. So we just want to move it before the
The other
board.
point that I was bringing up there is that they should reflect the review date.
And where was this, Jim? I'm sorry.
When Paris review goes through, every one of our policies should say
Oh, reviewed by, yeah,
what the review date was, so that they know it's up to date.
but is that something we have to do on?
We have to make sure that that's on there,
Okay,
okay? Michael?
so besides that, we just want to move it forward
So,
to for the board.
as Terry said, we approved it as a committee. And now a motion to accept them for review. And if there's any discussion. Any motion?
Make a motion.
So moved.
Okay. Would there be any further discussion? Okay. I do believe that we are up to date on all of our policies now. And we also reviewed the charter, so that's up to date too. No further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye. Why?
Opposed? Abstentions carried. Thank you. Now, the RJC development project resolution.
Rob, could you please provide an overview of this for the board?
Yeah, this is to join in the mortgage on the property. Stated simply, since Ada already has a leasehold interest in the property, it has to get a full interest in the title to the property. The bank has to get both the beneficial and legal interest in the title. Ada has a bare leasehold interest, so it has to join in with RJC in order for the bank to get the full estate and to have a full mortgage. And so that is what this is. And this is for the mortgage recording tax benefits that were previously passed.
So there's no action necessary on this?
No, yes.
We got to vote on this.
There is.
Calls a roll call vote,
Okay.
and you will need to sign a couple of things with the
Okay. Motion, please.
Mr. Daisy,
We got to put a vote on the floor.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Mr. Daisy,
Aye.
Mr. Cuddy,
Yeah,
Janet Hazel,
Aye.
Jim Weber McLeod,
Yes.
Saying yes.
I see her. Ms. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Lovell.
Oh, yes, but you do have my name spelled wrong on the bottom here.
oh,
Somebody-
that was Rob, somebody at, yeah.
I already have that.
Oh,
We
the name is.
We
the
did
name is
update it,
spelled
but
wrong in
I
there.
did notice that, I should have.
So, yes, aye.
Can you mark it on one of them so we get it right the next time?
Good.
Ms. Bradley, Ms. McIntyre.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Does any board member have any updates that they wish to bring up at this time?
Jim,
You can do
Okay, so it's been brought to my attention, there was a successful event last year, Brave Brews, which is a celebration of women brewers, and last year was a huge success in Auburn. If you want, like, how many people attended?
Yeah, it was, I think, over the course of the weekend, probably in the thousands.
Yeah, and it really, the buzz around it was, like, just, the celebration of women in the beer brewing business. And so Jimmy and I were thinking that this would be a good opportunity for Ada to take on an ad to sponsor the event, bring visibility to us, for the event and support the local business. You want to take it from here, Jim?
Yeah, and I would say one of the driving forces in this whole initiative is Prison City, which is one of the most recent success stories. And is quickly becoming, pretty significant manufacturer in the city of Auburn. They're now distributing out of that facility, not just selling there, but they're distributing across the state. So, they continue to grow. They're bringing in other breweries for the weekend at this event, other leaders in the industry. So, I think it would fit into the mission of what we are. There's different levels. I don't know what we're comfortable with doing. This was just sent to us today.
Fire and Ice Festival.
Yes.
That last year was fantastic.
Yeah.
When is that?
4th of March for.
Yeah, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. There's let's see here. Yeah, so there's the different. I didn't study exactly the levels of sponsorship. Jim, is there a recommendation you have for which one you think? would work
In the
well for
email
us?
from, you had the email from Chuck that I forwarded you, what they were asking. We literally just got it this afternoon.
They're asking the Great Brews weekend sponsorship, that'll make the weekend possible. Would Ada become a title sponsor?
At what cost?
It's $5,000.
Yeah, so I think that's the highest. There's title at 5,000. There's 3 of those available. Fireworks sponsor 3,500. Trolley sponsors 2,000. Ice is 2,000.
What is the trolley sponsor?
This package is the presenting sponsor for the safe transportation that will be available to First Friday and Fire and Ice Festival goers. Sponsorship mentioned during press interviews and on-air radio spots, logo included in all marketing, corresponding collateral, logo on ice sponsor wall for Fire and Ice Festival tickets. There's a $1,500 level and $500 level.
What was the ice one again? What is the ice? 2,000 and.
The coolest sponsor for those interested in branding their business on hand-carved ice sculptures during Fire and Ice Festival, the site of many photo opportunities.
I think for bang for the buck, that trolley. So
Yeah, I think trolley fits us better than the ice one.
They trolley back and forth all day long from start to finish. So.
do they put our logo in there?
Sponsorship mentioned during press interviews and on-air radio spots, logo included in all marketing and corresponding collateral, logo on ice sponsor wall.
Okay.
But not on there.
I know that doesn't say on the trolley.
And then is there an ad as well? An ad component, Jimmy?
There is marketing material,
So probably if there's a program.
Yeah.
Be featured in it.
and then
I make the motion that we buy into the trolley business.
Yeah, I think that's, we just spent, $70,000.
Do we have a second?
2,000 is good for that.
Who seconded? Billy seconded. Any further discussion? I definitely think that from what Jimmy said, that's gives us a lot of exposure.
Exposure, yeah, and to support,
And plus, being part of the community.
so all those in favor, right? Aye.
Aye.
Is that a check I need to cut for you?
Pardon me?
Is that a check I need to do and get Robert to sign? And how long do you need to get that? Jimmy?
We'll find out.
We'll find out,
Yeah,
yeah.
you'll.
If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions carried. Thank you.
Hey, Katie, your question about marketing, what I'll do is I'll ask Michael to forward this packet out to the entire group that was sent to
Okay.
us this afternoon. And it does talk about paid social media ads, press and media coverage, and what the expected outreach is.
Yeah, I was just curious if there's an opportunity for us to link the Prison City success story as additional content for someone who may be coming to the city and participating in this and maybe looking to expand their women-owned brewery business. Like, could they benefit from knowing how we as an organization have supported
Sure.
the growth of the industry?
Yeah, no, that's great. That's a great question.
Lisa, this ABO training, maybe we could get, what's her name?
Well, she won't be board appointed yet, right?
Pardon me?
She won't be on the
Well,
board
she can
yet.
still take the training and then
And
she's
she
ahead of the
has
game.
to do that training.
Well, I didn't realize that Lisa's gonna be here till July. So what we just talked about was maybe we'll have her on the resolution to be reappointed to Ada, then when she leaves, we'll ask Tessa to take her spot.
Tessa won't come
Well,
on.
what I was just thinking, getting ahead of the game, have Tessa take the ABO training now. Wouldn't hurt.
Maybe we can ask her.
Is that allowed?
Yeah, I don't know if it's allowed, if she's not on the board yet. I don't know what
Can you
the,
check into that one?
I don't think that's a problem.
You don't have to have her set up in Paris before.
No, it's after the fact.
Okay.
To my understanding, maybe Rob could speak to that.
Rob, we're talking about.
Each board
Lisa's
member.
Yeah,
placement.
I heard, and I don't know the answer to that.
Well, if we could do it and she's willing, if we'd just be ahead of the game, that's right.
Yeah, the ABO gets kind of weird. So I'd honestly be surprised if they'd let you do it before.
Yeah,
Just because a motion to appoint somebody could fail.
yeah,
But stranger things have happened.
Okay.
yeah, I mean, just like putting the cart before the horse. I just wait, it makes more sense if she's here.
Well, I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask. You can always call the ABO up and ask them. The worst they can say is no.
Right. Sometimes we have to think outside the box,
No, I mean, like I say, it's one of those things. There's not going to be any penalty for asking them.
Is there anybody that does need ABO training?
I think.
I did it. That's.
I have to do it.
Okay,
Oh,
so let us know when we can get you signed up.
January 25th, February 10th.
or February 22nd.
Can you remind me of the frequency that we're needing to do that?
Just once.
Just one time. Okay, thank you.
One and done.
Before.
All right, I'm done.
Before we motion to adjourn, just like, so can we put on the agenda next month our review of the board review?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's-
Everybody's.
Yes.
Okay, we'll do that next. I just want to make sure that that's on record, that we acknowledge that everyone's handed theirs in and we'll talk about it next week.
Also,
You just
I
want to
have-
show that everybody turned it in.
Everyone did.
I might be an outlier. I'll have to check with Christine to send it to me again. I just had something else I just wanted to offer up for us to think about. First of all, I want to thank Michael for the work that he's doing, helping parting the countywide team that's trying to work on a strategy to position us to have a good relationship with Micron when that door opens for us. One of the things that I'm learning, I'm sitting on the Workforce Development Committee, is that I think it came up at our last meeting, is that there's not shared understanding, I'm seeing at least in our group, of some of the economic forces that are at play in our community that are impacting our ability under normal circumstances to do some of the things that we're trying to do in the economic development space, much less things we want to take into consideration as we think about, well, what is the future calling us to do? So we talked about this a little bit, but something for us to think about if we just wanted to have a part of our agenda where we pondered potential business questions would be, could ADA and CETA partner possibly with the IDA and host some community convenings around some specific topics that would help bring increased awareness across the community about the factors that we're being impacted by. I'll know that I sit on the Central State CEO board, and we just had a very powerful discussion at our last meeting, and something that we talked about came up as a critical issue, which was the lack of childcare, right? Which is something I think people see as in addition to an economic development issue and not something that we need to center. So just food for thought for maybe a future meeting. Would we want to host, organize, well-designed community conversations to make sure that we're increasing shared understanding across the community about what entities like CETA, and then impacts us in some ways as the ADA board, what are the forces that we're up against in our county as we're trying to sustain a thriving economic development environment? So just something for us to think about. I found the conversation I just participated in to be very helpful. And it really was, I was intrigued by the fact that we didn't all have the same understanding about what's really going on. So Michael, if you want to speak to that anymore, please feel free to do so.
I think it's a good point. I think it's a good point that was raised in the last meeting. Terry was a part of that as well. For all of this that's been done, it's really been exposing their, kind of the teaming across various areas. So I'm in full support of putting something together in the future.
Yeah, that sounds good, Glenn. I agree. Yeah, childcare was a big issue. Public transportation was another one too.
Yeah.
So that sounds good.
Yeah, just an idea for us to consider down the road.
Yeah, we can be broader, but the idea is that, because it is a group that is very much like collaborative, educational, and industry. So yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
So move.
That's good.
All those in favor?
Bye.
Opposed, abstentions carried. Thank you.
Thank
Take care, everyone.
you.
You too.
Be well.
Bye.
Good night.
Dan Love.
I'm like, who